Antoine is gone after the Mets hired Troy Snicker to be their hitting coach on Monday. We found out the news that Antoine Richardson, Mets first base coach, is expected to leave the organization. This was a bit of a stunner, as we all said he's got to come back, give him a blank check. He's the best first base coach of all time. Let's put things into perspective here. First off, I don't think this is a Mets thing. The Mets wanted Antoine Richardson back. They said we were trying to get him back. I think this is Antoine Richardson wanting to leave the organization, which makes you think, did he not like it here? Does he not like some of the new coaches hired? Just something I thought about when looking at who they've hired and what his situation is. One, the Yankees have an opening at first base coach. Remember, not a big deal, but Antoine Richardson scored the winning run on Derek Jeter's final hit at Yankee Stadium. He was the pinch runner and scored. Two, Antoine Richardson worked with Kai Correa with the Giants. Richardson and Correa were both coaches on that staff under Gabe Kapler in San Francisco. Did bringing Kai Correa in maybe worry Richardson? Maybe they didn't get along there. Listen, I don't know. I'm just trying to think of why Richardson doesn't want to be here. Does he not like this roster? Does he not like working with Carlos Mendoza? Or, is he worried Correa is going to take over and be manager and he's not a big Kai Correa guy? I don't know. I assume that's not the case, but that was just something I thought of when I'm like, what's going on? I'm sure the Mets try to, pay him, give him a raise. Now, to the people saying give him a blank check, he's a first base coach. Let's be real here. I get it. The New York Mets stole at a historic rate, 89% success rate, historic numbers. Juan Soto, 38 stolen bases. The reports are that Soto and Richardson are tight. He obviously helped him do record things on the bases. He helped the Mets do record things on the bases. I don't think the Mets season is over now next year because they're losing Antoine Richardson potentially. Richardson's going to explore other opportunities. I doubt he would get a managerial offer, but maybe he's going to see, can he get more money elsewhere? Does he not want to be in New York? Maybe he wants to be somewhere else. Or maybe he wants to go join Aaron Boone's staff and join the Yankees, where he was a player briefly and did score, like I said, that game-winning run on Derek Jeter's walk-off hit in his final at bat at Yankee Stadium, which was obviously a storybook moment for Jeter, the captain of the Yankees franchise. So I don't know what the situation is. Correa, maybe they didn't get along in San Francisco, and maybe he doesn't want to work with Correa, and he expects Correa to take the manager job if Carlos Mendoza and the Mets struggle. Correa becomes manager, and Richardson doesn't want to be coached under Kai Correa. Maybe that's it. I don't know. But you just start to think of ego, and you start to think of, I don't want this guy to be my boss, and he's younger than I am. You just start to brainstorm different things of why he would want to leave. And that was just one thing I thought of. No one's really mentioned it. I'm probably the first one to mention it. It might not be true, but it's just what I thought. But obviously a tough loss. Antoine Richardson was the best coach on this staff. But I think a lot of Met fans think the sky is falling. I don't think this is a sky is falling kind of move here. Now the Orioles first base coach looks like he will be available. So maybe, he goes to Baltimore and the Mets get Anthony Sanders, the first base coach. So we'll see. But Snickers in his hitting coach. The Mets now have to find a third base coach and a first base coach. Now, he's expected to leave, according to all reports, but it's not a set in stone. So maybe the Mets say, you know what do we got to do to keep you, Antoine? And he ends up back here. But as of now, it looks like the Mets also will have to find a first base coach. The Mets need to find a center fielder, and if it's not going to be in free agency, it could be on the trade market. And a name that we talked about at the trade deadline that we talked about earlier this year that's starting to come up again, Jarren Duran from the Boston Red Sox. Could the Mets make a trade for Jarren Duran? Does that deal make sense? Well, if you look at Jarren Duran's contract, it's very fair. He has an $8 million option in 2026, and then he has 2 more years of arbitration. So for the next 3 years, age 29, age 30, age 31 seasons, Jarren Duran is not going to cost you a lot of money, which, makes you think, is that your answer? Or do you worry because you want Benj to then be playing center field? Or do you trade Benj this offseason if you're going to trade for Skubal or trade for Durant? Or could Jarren Duran end up moving to left if Benj comes up and Brandon Nimmo becomes your DH? So there are other options here. Jarren Duran is intriguing to me. My worry is, you know, is he regressing? Last year, he did take a bit of a step back, but listen, he still drove in 84 runs. He led the league with 13 triples. He had 14 triples last year. 21.75 was an all-star. Stole 34 bases last year. Stole 24 bases this year. Duran, he plays, 160 games last year, 157 this year. His WAR is still 4.6. Last year, his WAR was 8.7. So, Jarren Duran's a player. Do you worry a little bit about, the attitude and obviously the expletives he said at a fan he had apologized for? Will he be a fit in this clubhouse? I think he could bring a fire to this team that they could use. I'm not sure the personality would be a huge issue. I think you got to see with the Red Sox what it would cost. I don't think you trade the farm for him, but I do think you should be interested in Jarren Duran because this is a guy that can play center well, could play left well. You could, again, I think your goal here is you'd love if one of these young kids makes it, Ben's Jet, if you end up keeping one or both, and they take over center. Your goal is Brandon Nimmo to be a DH. You would like to get Brandon Nimmo out of the field and off his feet if you can. Because, again, Brandon Nimmo's contract you're stuck with. He's here. Whether it's in left field or whether it's DH, Brandon Nimmo's going to be a Met, at least for the next probably 3 seasons. And then he might be tradable after that. But for the next 3 years, Brandon Nimmo's here. Does Brandon Nimmo become your DH, Jarren Duran at left, Benj in center, or Duran at center, Benj left? I think Duran would solve a lot of issues. This is a guy that just runs and runs and runs. I mean, 27 triples last 2 seasons combined. His on-base, 332 last year. He's a career 328 on-base guy. So I'm not really sure if he's your leadoff hitter, but you want to put him towards the bottom of the order even. If he's your 6 hitter or your 5 hitter and you spread out the speed in your lineup, Lindor, Soto, you have some speed in Nimmo, you have speed in Duran. I mean, I'm in. If you can go get him, I'm in. What it will cost? Again, this is a similar situation. It's probably going to be a Jet Williams, maybe an AJ Ewing, and a Santucci. Does that get it done? Sproat, Jet Williams, Mark Vientos. Does that get it done? When you're talking about Jarren Duran, you're talking about 3 years of team control for affordable numbers. So I think Met fans are dreaming if they think it's going to be like Vientos and Santucci. It's going to be a decent package for Duran, but I like it because it's 3 years. This is not a rental situation. So I'm definitely intrigued. Let us know in the comments. Would you trade for Jarren Duran? Speaking of comments, we're going to get to your comments right now from Monday's show. I'm your host, Jake Brown, at Jake Brown Live. Make sure you smash that thumbs up on this video. Hit that subscribe button. You're watching Mets Daily and Jake Brown Live on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, and X. Make sure you follow me. Appreciate it. Make sure you share the channel with your Mets fan, family, and friends. And keep on commenting as we continue to read your comments all off season long. What a game last night, huh? I was in and out of sleep. I ended up waking back up, and I think I woke back up to the home run. It was very weird timing. I woke back up to Freeman's homer, or maybe it was a highlight. I don't even know. But a long game. Listen, I think that's great and all, but is anyone on the East Coast really up 6.5 to 7 hours watching that game? If you are, good for you. And listen, I'm a night owl. I usually am, but even I was too tired. Been playing pickleball. Pickleball gets you exhausted. By that time of the night, it's hard to stay up. So I think it is cool, but 6.5 hours is ridiculous. But not much you can do. No one was scoring, so what can you do? But the Dodgers 2 wins away from back-to-back World Series. Shohei Ohtani, after getting on base, 8 times? He is going to start tonight. All right, folks, let's get your comments. Here we go. From Mets Daily Insider member Mary L. 1973. I like the short format, especially at this time of the year. It's great for those who don't have the time to listen for an hour or more. Keep up the good work. Thank you, Mary. Yes, we were just talking about that yesterday. Somebody had commented about do the show a little bit longer. Thank you, Mary. Yeah, I agree. I mean, not everyone has time to watch 30, 40 minutes. Some people have 10, 15 minutes free to watch, and then they go about their day. So I do like that part of it, so I appreciate it. From JQLR8, well, I think Jake is actually the one who commented about the longer show. He said, was just watching this as you read my comment. Haha. There you go. Yeah, so again, I'm working on guests soon, so we're going to have Figgy back on. I'm going to work on Hank Azaria. Hank told me I actually saw him at Citi Field. I think I mentioned this during the season that he would come on. So I have to hit up his publicist, and we'll try to get Hank on. So going to work on some good off-season guests every week. I got to start scheduling those out. From Jay Martinez, 9332. Mets priority should be fortifying bottom of the lineup. As bad as the pitching was in the second half of the year, if we would have just a middle of the road bottom of the lineup, we make the playoffs by 5 games. I'm sure either buy, trade, or sign, and the Mets could get 2 solid offensive minded outfielders that play decent defense, and then make Brandon Nimmo your permanent DH for the outfield. You improve your defense and offense. If you reduce the wear and tear on Brandon because he seems to be good, 25 and 90 ribbies could take all day. If Pete leaves and you get 2 outfielders, I'm okay with Vientos at first. I'm also okay with getting 1 stud outfielder, Bregman moving baby, second base. All right, a lot going on there, Jay Martinez. A lot happening there. All right, let's dissect this kind of piece by piece. First off, yes, Brandon Nimmo DH I think would make the bets better. And second off, yes, they need more action at the bottom of the order. It was just dead at the bottom of the order. I'm not okay with Mark Vientos at first. I think that will be tragic for the Mets defensively. From Paul Hart 3812, I like Yandy too. How many guys have power and still hit 300 these days? He'd be a good short-term solution at first base if Pete walks. Agreed. Again, you have a potential second-year vesting option. You could have Yandy Diaz for much cheaper than most first basemen, and he produces almost as much or more than most first basemen. So I'm in on Yandy Diaz. From Hopper JJ101, go get a rise. Again, like we said on Arise, not great defense and doesn't get on base a lot. He hits for average, but that's about it. So I'm not against Luis Arise, but I think the Mets have to aim a little bit higher than that. From K. Rodero, 1956, but they about to lose Antoine Richardson. Yes, we just talked about that. Again, guys, Antoine Richardson, it's a tough loss if he does end up leaving. But let's remember, they will find a good coach to replace him. And, you hope that the current guys took something from Antoine Richardson and how to steal bases. But, yeah, obviously will be a tough loss. But, again, this is a Antoine Richardson thing. Like, people are commenting, cheapy, stingy Stearns. You're not going to write a blank check for a first base coach. That's just not how it works. And clearly he didn't want to be here. I'm very curious, and it will probably never be said, but I'm very curious if the Kai Correa hire and him working with him with the Giants bothered him in any sense or form. I would doubt it, but I'm just trying to think of reasons why he'd want to leave the franchise. Maybe he just doesn't like this roster and doesn't like some of the players. I don't know. And maybe he doesn't want to live in New York. Listen, for a first base coach, your money doesn't go as far. Like if he ends up going to a smaller market, maybe that ends up being the reason. Maybe he just does not want to be in New York right now. You're taxed heavier. The taxes are crazy. I love New York, but I'm not living in New York right now. It's too expensive for me right now. So I understand, I think New York's the greatest city in the world. If money wasn't an object, I'd live in New York for the rest of my life. But it's an expensive place right now, and a lot has changed. So that could be the reason as well. Larry Bergilla, 44. Clifford, Vientos, Sproat for Diaz. Are you out of your effing mind? Yeah, I mean, listen, that was probably a dramatic offer, I said, but again, Yandy Diaz is going to cost you something. He's an affordable first baseman who hits. I don't think you should undersell how good of a player he is, and I know he's in his mid-30s, but he was kind of a late bloomer, and I still think he is somewhat in his prime with what you've seen in the last few years from him, putting up his best seasons at age, 33, 32, 33. I also don't think you should. Vientos doesn't have much value. Vientos is a one-dimensional player. So it's really, I look at Vientos kind of throwing in these deals. Clifford and Sproat are the highlight. Yes, that's probably a lot. But Vientos' value is not very high right now. So he's not going to be the centerpiece of a trademark, Vientos. And from the O. Isaac, let's go Mets. Let's go Mets. Thanks for watching Mets Daily. Smash that thumbs up, comment, scan that code right here, become a Mets Daily Insider. Support the channel. Just $5 a month. Extra off-season shows are coming after the World Series. Enjoy the World Series tonight, Game 4, and thanks for watching, everybody.